Before we begin our question and answers session, I'd like to introduce you to Kate Mazzara. She is part of a group in Livingston County, Fight for the First LivCo, who is working very hard to keep censorship out of some libraries in Livingston County. And she asked for just a moment to speak with you.
Hi, thank you so much. And I just want to offer Livingston, or Lapeer, Fight for the First, a big round of applause, and thank you for putting this event on. Thank you. Okay. It was the inspiration of Lapeer that caused our group in Livingston County to create Fight for the First Livingston County. We have a pastor from a church who's a Christian nationalist, got on the board this past election and invited a group of Moms for Liberty type people to come and submit a list of 222 books. Our librarian read through them and said most of them were fine. She relabeled 38 of them or moved them. That wasn't good enough for this group. And so now our board of trustees is reading each and every book. And in response to that action, we checked out over thousands of books on LGBTQ, anything that was on the list from the library system, boosting the circulation number, giving it 3 more years of life, and making it difficult for them to read those books. Not impossible. We call it our Good Trouble Book Club. So we've had consistent action. We've protested outside of his church. We are coming after this board. We are not letting up. Our next day of action, we need help. We need bodies in our library. We are having a Chromane library read-in. Maya Angelou would never let people speak poorly or use derogatory terms or negative energy in her home. She believed it stayed in her walls. And by that same inspiration, we want to invite small groups of people to pick a book from the list, come to the library, get it off the shelf, and sit in small groups and read those books aloud and leave those words in the walls of our library. So there are an invitation and handouts. It is March 22nd, 1 to 3 p.m. at Heartland's Chromane Library. We hope that some of you will take the time and support us for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. We will definitely get that on our social media as well, so folks will be updated with that. Thank you. And now we would like to introduce you to our moderator for the day, Leslie Getz, and you already know her from your program, so I will just hand this mic right to her. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As we get started, I'll just briefly introduce our panel of experts, all librarians with a lot of training and a lot of experience. Danielle Brigati, Brian Cloutier, Melissa Malcolm, Aaron Schmunt, and you have information about them in your programs, so we'll just get right to it. First question from Megan. How can community members most help in supporting the fight against censorship and the freedom to read?
I'll say that my
hold the mic closer.
That my response would be for people to know who their commissioners are, or if you live in Mayfield or Lapeer Township, to get in touch with your supervisors, because these are the people that are appointing our library board. And so if you can tell them that you're really not happy that the rep from Lapeer Township threatened staff before she got on the board, and continues to, at board meetings, say that certain books shouldn't be on the shelves. That's not exactly what library board members are supposed to do. They are supposed to protect our freedom to read. And so I would recommend that you find that information about who may have helped to appoint these people to the board, and therefore at least somebody might understand that they need to be a little more careful with who they appoint. Although I will say I do think that it is a concerted effort in Lapeer County to take over the library. And so I think we really need to fight that.
I also think anything that you can do in terms of word of mouth, use your library, encourage other people to use your library. We're not just books. We provide a lot of services. We work with a lot of different people. We help fill out job applications, get people on computers. We navigate people to other social entities in the community. So the more you can advocate, if you're not someone who feels comfortable going to a board meeting, if you're not someone who feels comfortable standing up in front of people and giving a speech or speaking, you can do just as much good just in your own neighborhood, talking to your friends and family about the good that libraries do in our communities.
Thank you both. Next question comes from Rhonda. Can one of the directors explain the process for determining pornography in books?
So, legal definition, I have a lot of experience with quoting the Miller test in Texas. So it has to be prurient interest. It has to be not just one part of the book. It has to be the whole content of the book. And it is not a subjective criterion. It has to be an objective criterion. Otherwise, books on art, different books that deal with sex ed, these are not serving the prurient interests of people. These are educational texts. You can't take one line out of a book and say that the whole book is pornography. The Miller test, it is what the legal standard is at this time. That may change, we don't know. But at this point, the Miller test is what's the definition that we've seen of pornography in this country.
Thank you. The next question comes from Laura. In the face of censorship and the call for book bans, what gives you the most resilience to keep doing what you do?
I guess it's my turn. I think because I know that I'm right, and my husband. I'm sure it annoys my husband a lot, but this is what we were taught to do. And so our job is to serve the people, not just serve one person or a small group of people that have a certain belief. Our job is to serve all the people with all the beliefs. And so if you let one group or one person take over and push what their beliefs are across the board, you're not serving everyone else. And so knowing that to cave, or whatever you want to put it, to this one small group or a small faction means that you are harming everyone else.
Thank you. This next question comes from Andrea. What steps can we take to get back control of our library board, or at least remove those who want to censor the library?
I'm in a very fortunate situation. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. Okay. I'm in a very fortunate situation in my community because I have an elected board. The people who live in my community hold my board accountable. Unlike the Lapeer District Library, where individuals are appointed by the local municipality that supports the library, belongs to the district. So I think gaining back control of your library is going to be a very multi-pronged process. It's going to take a great deal of time, especially here, considering the fact that we are now a board that is almost fully overturned. It's going to take many years for that process to happen. It's not going to happen overnight, but my best advice I can give my fellow residents in this county is that we can't give up. We cannot give up this fight. And regardless of where they move these library board meetings to and what time of day they move these library board meetings to, I've made it very clear. I've been in the industry for 30-some years. I've been doing this for a long time. I have enough vacation time to go around, and I will follow them wherever it takes.
Thank you. This question is somewhat related. This comes from Shirley. How important is it for us to attend the library board meetings, and how do we find out when the library boards meet?
I would say it's extremely important to attend if you can at all possible, just being from someone who had to deal with a different situation but similar. The people who are pro-book banning are extremely loud. If you look at the numbers, they're a very minor part of the community, but they are so loud. So even if you go and you're not comfortable speaking, being there and not cheering for them helps. Being there and not agreeing with them helps, because the people at the front of the room can see, like even if you're shaking your head no when they're speaking, something like that, they understand that you don't agree with what's being said. So yeah, your board is moving things all over the place and at extremely inconvenient times, but if you can get there, it is very important.
I will interject also that if you aren't able to come to the meetings, we've been able to record the library board meetings and publishing them on YouTube so you can at least watch what's happening, and then you can always contact your representatives on the library board if you can't attend the meetings.
It is the third Thursday of the month at 10 a.m. in Oregon Township. We're supposed to have it moved to, I don't know if they're going to do it now that it's city hall flooded.
If you make sure that you grab one of these bookmarks, you can use the QR code to go to www.fightforthefirstlapeer.org, and that's the number 4 instead of the word 4, and you will find the library board meeting times and locations there. You'll also be able to watch those recordings that Leslie referred to. Additionally, for those of you who use Facebook, occasionally we're able to live stream the meetings. It depends on where it is, and in that case it would be on our Facebook page if we're able to live stream. But if not, they're always there by the next day. So make sure you take one of these when you go there. Also some out in the entrance, and you'll be able to follow on the Facebook page or the website.
Are also on the library homepage.
Yes, if you could not hear that, the library homepage has a calendar of events that will also tell you where and when the meetings will be held.
Okay, great information. Thanks, everybody. Next question. How does the library ensure its collection reflects diverse viewpoints?
I'll just say that the way that the library maintains a diverse collection is by not inserting your own opinion into collection development. It's probably not a secret, I tend to be a more conservative librarian, but it's not my role to insert my opinion, and it's an opinion, my opinion into my collection. And I trust my staff and my team to handle that. and I don't get in their way, I get out of their way. That's the key. To have a multitude of people who are involved in that process brings different ideas and different opinions into the mix, and that's the most important element. But the key, I think, for any librarian, regardless of whether you're a left-leaning person, a right-leaning person, or right down the middle, is irrelevant. As a librarian, we have an obligation to make sure that we serve everybody, regardless of your own personal opinion, and keep that out of it.
The next question comes from Jeff. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was a school librarian in a grade 7 through 12 school in Vermont for 15 years. And one of the things that we always tried, and even in Vermont, you know, I think it was 99% white at that time. I always tried to make sure that every kid could see him or herself in something, whether it was a magazine or some music or fiction, nonfiction. That was very important to me, and I didn't care if we only had one black kid in the school. We had Ebony magazine, and so it's just really important, and I think all of us do that, to make sure that every person can find him or herself in some of the material that we have.
The next question comes from Jeff. Can someone say something about the current laws on censorship and the phrase community standards?
Wow.
The current laws on censorship are a little bit tricky because a lot of it is in case law. It's not in like a law that says censorship is illegal. So there's a lot of interpretation based on attorneys and judges and things like that. And so first of all, having a really good library attorney is important. I know that Lapeer doesn't currently use the top library attorney in the state, but having a really good library attorney is important because you need somebody to interpret a lot of this stuff for you. Community standards, I don't know, does anybody else want to speak to that one?
Well, I first heard community standards when I was still a library director in Texas, and I always felt like it was a co-option of kind of a white Christian nationalist viewpoint, because we had, even though the county I came from was very much a similar makeup to Lapeer, a somewhat conservative county in Texas. In fact, you're right next to Llano County, so I knew Suzette Baker, and I knew some of the people that we saw in the movie documentary today personally. Community standards kind of became this assumption that the Moms for Liberty group, that everyone else in the community felt the same way, and that kind of became, this is going to be the rallying cry. Our community doesn't want this. The fact of the matter is their viewpoint did not reflect everybody's viewpoint in the community. And going back to that question that you asked earlier about, you know, just showing up to the meetings, it was so nice for me as a director, sitting in meetings with 200 and 300 people that were coming out, and some of them screaming, the pedophiles, the groomers, all the comments at you, to just have friendly faces out there, even if those people didn't say anything, you kind of knew that they were there to support you. So this community standard seems to be like a way to kind of circumvent some of those, oh, we need to represent everybody's viewpoint. No, we're gonna only represent kind of what the majority viewpoint is. And that's where I've seen it play out a lot.
I think even in this room, we couldn't all agree on everything, right? It's inevitable. I mean, we're all individual people. So the community, you are the community standard. You are the individuals that determine what that is, but we have to understand that it's a collective effort. It's not just, as you pointed out, it's not one side versus the other. It's a community-wide standard that we have to uphold together and understand that there is a give and take and that we all have a voice at the table. It's not just the people who have the loudest voice at the time.
And I also think it's, I lost my train of thought here, but I also think it's important that, you know, we talk about everyone's story being represented, and that's why it's important to have this diversity of books. But also, I mean, I grew up in a predominantly, you know, white Christian environment where I grew up, and the exposure to other cultures and people who may have thought differently from me didn't necessarily come within my community. It came because my mom was a reading teacher, and reading was very important, and that's how I was exposed to a lot of different things. I don't know how you can come to an opinion, an informed opinion about anything, if you don't know what the other side thinks. And that's where libraries play a very important role. Maybe we don't have the money to travel, or maybe we don't have the money or the ability to talk to people that may think differently than us within our community, but books take us to a different place, whether it's in fiction or nonfiction. You get to travel to a different world every time you open up a book. And that is unbelievably important in a society, in a country that is as divided as the United States is right now, is being able to walk in somebody else's shoes for just a little bit.
And I would just like to say, and I hope this isn't, it is a sore point, I guess. I read Genderqueer twice. And I will say that after the first time, I had never understood what a person goes through. An individual that I had maybe I've met people, but I didn't know. And I just thought it was worthwhile for that, and certainly a perfect reason to have it in a library collection when you can read about somebody that is beyond your experience.
The next question is from Mindy. So when are we going to start a banned book club? I take it she might be volunteering to lead that.
Do you want to hear it?
I mean, we have a book club, but some books we've done, I'm sure, are banned, but.
Well, I'm retired from Lapeer District Library, and I would say that is a great idea. So I may talk to the new director about that. In a very gentle way.
The next question is from Kate. How do we continue to elevate this issue when there are so many other issues and violations demanding our attention?
I think by just continuing to do things like this, educating the populace as to what's happening, and that it's your First Amendment right to be able to read what you want to read, and have everything represented on your shelves at your library. Everybody is just about a taxpayer, and so, you know, you have a right to have a voice in this. But it is, right now, there are so many issues happening, you know, across the country. It's hard to kind of pick which cause you're going to get involved in on a day-to-day basis. But I think things like this that promote what's happening is always a great thing. And groups like Fight for the First and Fight for the First Livingston lets people know that it's happening. Because most people, I really don't think, are as aware as we think they are. We live within this environment, so we're very conscious of it. But even with protests and all the things that happen, most people are going about their daily lives. They're not aware that these battles are being fought in the libraries.
The next question comes from Lisa. Do you know what became of the state law proposal to unify the book ban request process?
I believe it just died. I mean, it was brought up during lame duck session, and the makeup of the legislature changed after that point, and it just died. So it's nowhere.
Yeah, I know some of us were in the room at the hearing. I testified at that hearing, and it was a chaotic process during lame duck, and actually there was a majority that could have made some very fundamental changes in the legislation that governs us, and unfortunately they couldn't keep it together, and it failed. And that was not surprising in some ways, but it certainly stung a little bit. But you know what? We're not gonna quit. We're not gonna quit. We're not gonna give up, and we're gonna continue. And we expect you to be there behind us, helping us move this train forward too, because we're on the front. Our staffs are on the front line. We're all administrators, so we have our staff that has to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. We're not immune to it just because we're in the office, but we don't have to deal with the voices as much as they do. So we have their back, and they know that we have their back, and we need you to have our back so that we can continue this fight along with you. And when we ask you to advocate on our behalf in Lansing, we hope that you'll join that fight with us when that time comes, because it's something that I don't think is going to go away. This isn't going to go away. It's going to be with us for a long time, and it's going to be a long battle. And when we ask you to step up, we just hope that you can stand behind us and help us with that cause.
The next question comes from Steve. Can you speak about the act of preemptive censorship, meaning the act of removing books before a challenge, and how do we combat that?
Well, I think if we follow our collection development policies, and we have good collection development policies, we're not really dealing with that on a day-to-day basis. I think that's fair, a fair assumption. The problem is when we start making these changes to our collection development policies, and we're not the ones making the changes to our collection development policy. I want to make that very clear. It's our governing body. So I think, you know, it's as long as we're following those policies, and those policies are there for a reason, we should be preempting that from happening. But it's when we start meddling with that policy and making those changes administratively or governance-wise that change administratively is when we start getting into the muddy water.
I do think that there's an element, and I don't know that it happens as much in this county because you guys have a county-ish system. There are a lot of small libraries in Tuscola County, and I do fear that there's a lot of self-censorship there sometimes, because I think sometimes staff chooses not to purchase certain things because they know it will cause controversy. I don't know exactly how to prevent that. You would think it would be by having a supportive public, a supportive board, and a tight collection development policy. But the truth is, I think it happens pretty often.
The next question comes from Chris. What is the root of the fear of any book?
Books have power, but not in the way that the book banners seem to think they do. I mean, you're not going to read a book and become a bear. You're not going to read a book and become Jimmy Crockett. You're not going to read a book and become gay. I mean, it's just not the way books work. They do work in ways that Danielle talked about opening your eyes to new experiences, or how Melissa talked about reading, genderqueer and finding out what it's like to be transgender or have a lived experience that you don't have. It does open your eyes to information, and I think some people are afraid of that, especially people of a certain viewpoint that want everyone to think exactly the same, believe what they believe, and not ask any questions. that's where the fear comes, because what if you read a book and realize that they're actually full of it?
I concur.
The next question, who picks the books for libraries?
Well, I think I touched on that a little bit, at least in my library, and I think it's probably similar in the libraries represented here, is that I have a team of people. I have my children's librarian staff are responsible for collection development in the children's room. Likewise, my adult department staff are in the adult room, my teen staff the same. They specialize, at least in my case, they specialize in that area. I have teachers that are librarians in my children's department. I have people who are family counselors in my children's department. There are people who work in the library that you wouldn't even imagine they work in the library. They come from so many different backgrounds and beliefs and ideas and professional degrees that it's mind-boggling sometimes when we think about the diversity among our teams. And they are the ones that are responsible for making those decisions, and they do a really good job at it, and we just need to get out of their way and let them do what they are trained to do. And I think, obviously it's not going to solve everybody's problems, but the library would be much better off and the community would be much better off as a result of that.
We've pretty well covered the topics in the written questions. As you've been listening to the answers and thinking more about this issue, is there anybody in the audience that has an additional question that they would like to ask the panel?
I do, as I'm listening to you talk and learn more about what's happening.
Can't hear you.
Can I have the mic and I'll take it down?
Hi, thank you guys for coming. And I'm just going to make it short. In light of what I consider an assault on our library system and the books that are available to us, are you finding it difficult or less people being interested and willing to join this profession and positions are being more difficult to fill?
I can speak for my library. I have an individual who just joined my team recently, left a career in another field because they wanted to be a librarian as a result of what was happening in the industry right now. They wanted to be part of that movement moving forward. So no, I think obviously it's not an easy career to go into right now because of what we're dealing with, but I think there are people out there that are willing to step up and change careers to be part of the movement in moving libraries forward.
That's good to hear.
I do think, though, we've lost some good people that have been in positions that have been attacked and have either stepped down out of positions of power or left the industry altogether because they've been personally threatened. So it's kind of both ways.
I think we can do about 2 more questions. Let's grab one here.
Oh, come on.
Hi, I heard a very good suggestion come out here. And people are wondering how to increase the chances of a book's survival in your library. Check it out. Read it. The suggestion of sitting in the library with a small group, reading it out loud, quietly, and not in the children's department. That also highlights. Form a book club, carry the book around so that people can see you're reading it. When you see someone reading a book, it increases your interest and you actually look up the title and see what it's about. This is how we protect the books in our library.
I think we have a few panelists for our next one.
But along that line, though, I will add this. We have to be acutely aware of the Lapeer District Library's new policies. They recently changed their policies and behavior in the library. to prevent you from being able to do a lot of the things that you are talking about right now. And that, as a professional, that's just outright appalling to me.
I would say very good.
I have two questions now. One is, what is the new policy that you just referred to? And two, of the books that they want to take off the shelf or move, what books are they and what has been done with them?
Well, the newest one is.
Do we have anybody up there comfortable to address the new collection policy?
I mean, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to speak out of context, but I will say it is available, and you can look in the packet, the library board packet, and you can actually read it for yourself. But it does, from what I can recall, it does restrict what you're allowed to do within the library and how you're allowed to read within the library, and even to, you know, what the nature of the context you're reading within the library. It's a lot more detailed than that, and I encourage you to read the policy on your own, and if you need interpretation of that policy, someone would probably be happy to step up and help you do that, or the staff, for that matter, would be a good person to. Or I even ask the board, go to a board meeting and ask them to interpret the policy, because they adopted the damn policy, they should know what it means.
And I'm not sure if the new policy has been put on the website yet. If it has not, then we will put it on the site for the first website so that you can see that and do as Ryan suggested. Mr. Marquardt, we're going to let you have the last question. Mr. Marquardt is a sitting Lapeer District Library board member and definitely a defender of the right to read.
Not so much a question as a comment, a couple of comments. The board that the Lapeer District Library currently has made a determination that it is up to them to determine what materials get included in our collection. I have said at meetings, none of us are competent, myself included, or qualified to make those decisions. We have professional librarians whose job it is to do that, not up to us as a board to do that. This board tends to want to micromanage everything that this library does. It's inappropriate. Our job as a board is to offer guidance to the director, to be fiscally responsible, to make sure that we are conforming to all of the various laws, rules, regulations that libraries have to comply with. It is not our job to manage the staff. We hire and fire a director, that is it. The rest of it belongs to the director, all the management staff. Someone asked the question, how do you get involved? My term on the library board will probably be over within about a year now, I think. Whether or not I am reappointed to the board is dependent upon the city of Lapeer City Commission. If they decide they don't want me on the board, I won't be on the board. The same thing happened in Lapeer Township, the same thing happened in Mayfield Township, the same thing has happened with all of the seats that are appointed by the county commissioners. County commissioners appoint 4 seats to the board. Mayfield Township 1, Lapeer Township 1, and the city of Lapeer 1. That's a 7-member board. Right now, there are 2 of us, Bonnie Lawrence and myself, who are the loyal opposition, if you will, to the far-right Christian coalition of folks that have been appointed by the county commission and by Lapeer and Mayfield Township. This library system needs your support. Those of us who are on the board who will be fighting with these clowns for the rest of our terms on the board, need your support. We've just hired a new director. He comes from Germantown, Tennessee, which is a suburb of, I believe it's Memphis. Nashville? Doesn't matter. It's a public library, but that public library is operated by a private equity firm. This guy is not a public librarian. He is a public librarian who was contracted out to run the municipal library. That's the experience that he's bringing to Lapeer. If you are concerned about the Lapeer District Library, you better be concerned about who the new director is. And you better show up and fight with us. Because this clown is going to be bad for the city of Lapeer and for Lapeer County District Library. That's it. Thank you all for coming. And thank the panel. You guys are treasures. Danielle, I love you.
Oh, how can we follow that?
I'd like to echo that thank you to our panelists, Leslie, especially to everyone who attended today. And as far as how to elevate this, how to focus on this in light of everything else that's happening, please remember that Minneapolis is a First Amendment issue. What's happening in our universities where professors are being told what they can and cannot teach is a First Amendment issue. Censorship in our libraries is a First Amendment issue. Many of us cannot travel around the country to support these other issues, but we can work on the First Amendment and our right to free speech right here in Lapeer. So please make sure that you have taken one of those bookmarks, you connect with Fight for the First Lapeer if you have not already done that, and please continue to support our library and our superheroes, the librarians. Thank you. You can say glasses